They did build a little kind of a monument to him on the back wall, but it's a great cemetery. So if you ever get a chance, I highly recommend you go. And there are all these odd hoof prints in the dirt. And a young lady has been trampled to death. And all they know is it must be the red ghost, because in the distance they see this red flash on the horizon. So one of the things I also do is I do a variety of bus tours. Has anyone ever heard the name Winnie Ruth Judd?
Yeah. Yes.
So she is probably our most infamous murderess here in Arizona. Quite a few years ago, back in 1931, her two roommates were murdered, but she took a train trip with them from Phoenix to LA. But they were in 4 trunks. By the time they got to LA, you know, those trunks weren't as fresh as they could have been.
Back in the 40s, 50s, which, you know, golly, by then I was up and moving and in school and doing everything in the Midwest or the East, and these folks were still farming, and it's just been so enjoyable to get to meet the long-timers here, and that some of them still live in their original homes.
But then,
Right.
as it changes, I kind of like the idea that you don't have to give everything up that you have because somebody else did something else next to you. Back east, that's what they would do. They condemn your property, or they'd find a way to take it away from you to make it fit into the rest of the out here.
And so to answer your question, it's really about getting out of a routine that, you know, they say in New York, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And I'm convinced that it's a psychological trick of, if you can make it here, you'll just keep in this rat race and then you won't actually want to leave. And everybody I talk to back home wants to leave, they just don't necessarily think they can. So the ability to change your priorities, look at your cost of living, sit down and say, what do I want to do? As opposed to being another one of these crabs in the barrel. Every time one tries to get up, the other ones pull it down and say, you don't want to go, you don't want to go. And I said, you know what, I'm going to leave. I left. And I got homesick in the beginning. You know, I went back, I came back, went back, came back. And then I went back for 3 weeks. And then on the 10th day, I was like, oh yeah, I'm done.
We came from a very rural community of only 500 in the town that we grew up in. 500. This is like, you know, smaller than old-time Maricopa. So we're very excited to be able to have that community for our kids, to offer the diversity and the culture and the history that comes along with it.
Later they said, you know, you're Maricopaville, you've got these theaters, these saloons, these hotels, you know, at one time they were literally suggesting that that would be a great place for the territorial capital, was Maricopaville. We actually had a larger population than Phoenix at that time.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So they were saying, hey, this would be a great place. But again, the railroad said, well, we're going to make a north-south route, and you're in the wrong place. You need to move 4 miles. And so it became a junction, and there was a north-south Maricopa Phoenix railroad. And there was a daily 1-car rail system called the Doodle Bug. And it went up and back. And then in the 30s, because of the flooding and because of some other things, they discontinued and tore up the rail system so that we became just Maricopa. There was no longer a junction there. But I find a lot of people don't understand or have a feel for that type of legacy and heritage that we have.